Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty unique. These Dear Sugar columns by Cheryl Strayed, right?
Yeah, these are really fascinating.
Yeah. So we've got a whole collection of these letters, people writing to her about some really personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission here, I guess, is to try to like extract the core wisdom, like what are the real like nuggets of insight that we can pull from these conversations?
Yeah.
Stuff about love and loss and relationships and just, like navigating life's messiness, right?
Yeah, and I think what's so interesting about these is they're like these raw, unfiltered conversations with strangers.
Yeah, it's like peering into people's lives at these really like vulnerable moments.
Absolutely. And so
Yeah.
it's like we get to kind of absorb those life lessons almost through osmosis, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to try to, kind of guide you through the scenarios.
Right.
Highlight some of the advice that Strayed gives, which can be pretty surprising sometimes.
Yeah. Definitely not your typical advice column.
And then kind of step back and try to offer like a broader understanding of what it all means, right?
Yeah.
And this is, for you listening right now,
Yeah.
we're looking at these columns with you and trying to think about like what might speak directly to your own experiences.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Why don't we start with relationships and love? That seems to be a big theme in these letters.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the early ones is from Johnny, and he's kind of wrestling with, the meaning of I love you, right?
Yeah, like what does it actually mean?
Exactly, because he's, gone through a divorce. His marriage ended.
Right.
And now he's in these kind of new relationships that are kind of confusing.
Yeah.
And he's like, wait a minute, like, what does this phrase even mean?
Right. And Strayed's perspective on this, I think, is really interesting because she says, it's not like a fixed definition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a legal contract.
Agree.
It's much more fluid than that.
It's more like a relational agreement, right? So like the weight and meaning of I love you isn't inherent in the words themselves. It's more about the unspoken understandings and expectations between those two people.
Right. So it's about like the context.
Exactly.
And like what's going on in the relationship, not just like the words being uttered,
Yeah. So for Johnny, it sounds like, maybe the issue wasn't so much whether he said it or not, but more about like a mismatch in expectations.
Yeah. Maybe he and the other person weren't on the same page about what that phrase meant to each of them.
Right.
Exactly. Okay. So then we have Crushed, who's this person, kind of middle-aged, and all of a sudden they've got this like huge crush on a friend.
Yeah, classic midlife crisis stuff, right?
No, but it's like that thing that happens where you're already committed, you're in a relationship, you're married, and then boom, this unexpected attraction hits you.
It's like totally throws you off.
Yeah. So what does Strayed say?
Well, she's pretty straightforward. She's like, step away from the crush. Put that energy back into your marriage.
Okay, so she's not saying like indulge it or explore it.
No, she's like, nope, redirect that energy.
Yeah, like don't even go there.
But it's interesting how she acknowledges like the delightful but distressing energy of those attractions.
Yeah,
right.
She gets it.
It's very human, right?
It is, yeah.
But her wisdom, I think, lies in that pragmatism,
Yeah.
Instead of getting caught up in the fantasy.
Right.
She's like, consciously choose where to invest that energy.
Mm-hmm.
Nurture the love that you've already built.
Okay, so it's almost like a practice, right?
Yeah.
Like you're choosing to focus your attention and your energy on the commitment that you've already made.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then we've got this letter from Mourning and Raging.
Yeah, and that title says it all right. This
Right.
is dealing with infidelity.
Yeah.
Like the aftermath of an affair.
Right.
And this person is understandably like full of rage.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be?
But Strayed makes this really interesting point about where that anger is directed at the other woman.
Right.
And Strayed is like, hold on a second.
Yeah, like, hold on a second.
Where does the real accountability lie here?
Exactly.
Like, she doesn't diminish the pain that's caused by the affair.
No.
But she's like, the primary responsibility is on the person who broke the vow.
The one who cheated.
The woman who cheated, exactly.
And she has this line that's like so stark.
Yeah.
It's like, he took a vow, she only took a job.
Right, real. Like,
Right.
that just reframes the whole situation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
And she also has this really interesting suggestion about using breath to neutralize those intense negative thoughts.
Yeah, I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, like just that simple act of breathing
Yeah.
can be this like first step towards finding some peace amidst all that hurt.
Yeah, just like grounding yourself.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Okay. So then we have M, who's this woman who's thinking about becoming a single mother by choice.
Yeah, that's a big decision.
It is a huge decision.
And Straight's response I thought was so refreshing because it's so grounded. Like, she just lays out the honest realities of raising a child without a partner.
Yeah, she doesn't sugarcoat it at all.
No, she's like, you need reliable childcare.
Right.
It's going to impact your dating life.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
And there are financial implications, like all this stuff that you need to think about.
And she makes this really astute observation about how, those well-meaning friends,
Yeah.
they might not actually provide, like, consistent practical support.
Yeah, it's one thing to say, oh, I'll help you.
Right.
But it's another thing to actually show up day after day
Exactly.
and provide that childcare or whatever it is.
Yeah, so she's very realistic about the challenges, but she also leaves room for possibility.
Right.
Like, she doesn't say you'll never find love.
Right.
She just keeps it grounded in the, like, immediate logistical aspects.
Okay, so it's like being prepared,
Yeah.
but also open
Yeah.
to whatever might come your way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then we have man juggler, who's navigating the world of non-monogamy. Yeah, this is getting into some interesting territory.
It is, and this person is feeling overwhelmed by all the potential connections.
Like too many options.
Yeah, like juggling all these different relationships.
Right.
And Strayed used this really great analogy here.
Yeah.
She talks about negative space.
It's such a brilliant way to frame it.
Yeah, it is.
So she's borrowing this concept from art, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like negative space is the empty areas that actually define the subjects.
Right. So it's like what's not there is just as important as what is there.
Exactly. And she's applying that to relationships.
Okay.
She's saying just because you can have multiple partners
Yeah.
doesn't mean you should.
Right.
It's about recognizing the value in that space.
The negative space.
Yeah, the negative space.
Okay.
The space for individual needs and for focused connection.
Right. So it's not about like maximizing the number of partners. It's about like being intentional
Exactly.
about who you're connecting with.
Yeah. And recognizing that more options doesn't automatically equal greater fulfillment.
Yeah, it can actually be the opposite.
Right, it could be overwhelming.
It can be totally overwhelming.
And then we have needs direction, who's writing about unrequited affection.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
This is like classic heartbreak territory.
Mm-hmm. Like holding on to someone who likes you but isn't fully committed.
Yeah. And Straight's response here is so direct.
Yeah, she doesn't mince words.
It's like a dose of tough love.
Yeah, she cuts right through all the ambiguity and wishful thinking
Right.
with this really clear message, which is
Right.
can't force someone to feel deeply for you.
Mic drop.
Right. And the core of her advice is about self-respect. Recognizing when you're investing in something that's not going to give you the return you desire.
Yeah.
And she has this powerful closing line where she's like, let yourself be gutted and start there.
Wow.
It's about acknowledging the pain fully
Yeah.
as the first step towards moving on.
Right. So don't try to like bypass the pain.
Feel it.
Let it gut you.
And then start from there.
Exactly. Okay. And then the last one in this section is happily ever after.
Oh, this is an interesting one.
Yeah. This is the bride-to-be who's like, freaking out because
Yeah.
she's learned about past infidelity in a couple that she always saw as perfect.
Yeah, it's like shattering her illusions about marriage.
Yeah.
Like if it could happen to them, it could happen to anyone.
Exactly. And Straight's response is so candid.
Yeah, she gets real about the complexities of marriage. And she even shares a little bit about her own past, hinting at some complexities in her own relationships.
Yeah, which is really interesting.
And she's basically saying, like, marriage isn't this guarantee against difficulty.
It's about how you address those difficulties
Right.
when they inevitably arise.
Yeah, and whether that fundamental bond of love and commitment is strong enough to endure.
Exactly.
So she's kind of preparing this bride-to-be
Yeah.
for the reality that, like, long-term relationships are nuanced. They're messy.
They're surprising.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as happily ever after without putting in the work.
Right. It's an ongoing process.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about grief and loss.
Yeah. This is part 2.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff.
It is, but so important.
Yeah, and we start with Stuck. Who's this person who's writing in after a miscarriage?
Yeah, and they're still feeling so much guilt and isolation.
Yeah, like almost a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And Straight's response is so compassionate.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought was so important was that she validated the enduring nature of grief after a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's saying that love for that child doesn't just vanish.
No.
And it's not a minor loss.
It's a profound loss.
Yeah, it is. And She suggests seeking out support groups and resources.
Yeah, that's so crucial.
Right, like connecting with others who understand the specific kind of pain
Exactly.
and who won't tell you to just get over it.
Right, because you can't just get over it.
No, you can't.
Okay, so then we have engaged guy.
Yeah, and he's trying to figure out how to support his fiancée,
Yeah.
who lost her mother several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he feels like his attempts to comfort her are just falling short.
Yeah, like nothing he says seems to help.
Right.
And Strayed offers this really profound insight.
Okay, what is it?
Sometimes the most supportive thing you can do isn't trying to make someone feel better.
Wow, yeah.
It's just acknowledging the loss.
Yeah, like just being there with the pain.
Exactly. And she talks about her friend who said, "It will never be okay that our mothers are dead."
Yeah, that's a powerful statement.
It is.
Because it's true.
It is.
Like, you can't fix that.
No.
So Strade's saying, like, true support isn't about offering empty platitudes or trying to cheer someone up.
Right.
It's about recognizing the ongoing reality of their grief.
Yeah, and just being present with them in that pain.
Yeah, even if it's uncomfortable.
Even if it's uncomfortable.
Okay, and then the final letter in this section is from Living Dead Dad.
Oh, this one just breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's so heavy.
This is a father who's lost his son,
Yeah.
and he's just grappling with this unimaginable pain.
Yeah, his letter is just raw emotion.
It is.
And Strade meets him in that rawness.
Yeah, she doesn't try to offer, like, easy answers.
Yeah.
She just validates the enormity of his pain.
Mm-hmm.
And she has this concept of the obliterated place.
Yeah, I love that phrase.
It's like this space of both destruction and potential.
Yeah, like it's been destroyed.
Yeah,
But there's also the possibility for something new to grow there.
exactly. And she's suggesting that healing isn't about forgetting the loss,
Right.
but about creating a new reality that incorporates that grief.
Yeah, like making space for it.
And she also emphasizes that his love for his son is still there,
Yeah.
and that honoring his son's memory means finding a way to live again.
To experience joy again.
Yeah, not as a betrayal, but as a continuation of that love.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, so part 3 moves into the realm of personal growth.
Yeah, and all the obstacles that we face along the way.
Yeah. And we start with run toward the darkness.
Oh, yeah, this is a powerful one.
Yeah, this is someone whose parents sent them to a re-education camp.
Because they're gay.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It is, and Strade's advice is so strong.
Yeah, she's like, get out.
Get out of there.
Yeah, like remove yourself from that environment.
Exactly, because it's toxic.
It is toxic. And
Yeah.
she's not saying it's going to be easy,
No.
but she's saying it's necessary.
Yeah. Your well-being depends on it.
Yeah. And she makes this point that, like, the parents probably already know, like, deep down.
Right.
They know their child is gay.
Yeah.
So it's like, why are they trying to force them to change?
Right. It's about the parents' own issues.
Yeah. And she has similar advice later for Bruce's daughter.
Yeah, who's dealing with a narcissistic father.
Right.
And she's like, set boundaries.
Set boundaries. Be firm. And recognize your own strength in doing so.
Exactly. Okay, then we get into addiction.
Yeah, with Ruler, who's this business owner addicted to pain medication,
Mm-hmm.
and later with Drinker, who's struggling with alcohol.
Yeah. And Strade's advice in both cases is very direct.
Yeah, she's like, no BS.
No BS. She's like,
Yeah.
for Ruler, acknowledge the addiction, seek help, be honest with your loved ones.
And she specifically addresses that fear of judgment.
Yeah.
She's like, addiction is a common struggle,
Yeah.
and there's support available.
Mhm.
So don't be afraid to reach out.
Exactly. And for Drinker, she's even more blunt.
Yeah.
She's like, stop drinking.
Stop drinking. Find a support community.
Like AA.
Yeah, and it's all about taking personal responsibility
What?
and actively seeking help.
Even when it feels really hard.
Yeah, even when you're full of shame or fear.
Exactly. Okay, so then we have ashamed.
Who's writing about having these icky thoughts and desires?
Yeah, like feeling really bad about them.
Yeah, and Strayed offers this really reassuring perspective. She's
Yeah.
like, there's a difference between thoughts and actions.
Yeah, like as long as those thoughts remain in the realm of fantasy
Yeah.
and don't involve harming anyone,
Right.
there's no reason to be ashamed.
And she encourages open communication with partners,
Yeah.
like talking about these things instead of just keeping them bottled up.
And she even suggests that, like, those icky thoughts
Yeah.
can actually lead to shared intimacy and pleasure
Interesting.
if you're open about them with your partner.
Okay, so it's like turning something that feels shameful
Yeah,
into something that can be connective.
exactly.
Okay, so then we have Honeybun.
Who's struggling with the whole, like, becoming a writer thing.
Yeah, like the journey of being a writer
Mm-hmm.
and feeling discouraged because they're not seeing immediate success.
Yeah, that's so common,
It is.
especially these days.
Yeah, and Strayed shares her own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And she basically says, like, it's a long road.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And she emphasizes the importance of consistent effort,
Mm.
reading a lot,
Mm-hmm.
being self-aware.
Yeah, knowing yourself as a writer.
Yeah, and being humble.
Yeah, and patient. Because those unrealistic expectations can actually get in the way.
Yeah, like they can block your creativity.
Exactly. Okay. And then there's awful jealous person.
Who's a writer struggling with the success of their peers.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It is, and Strade's advice here is so simple,
Yeah?
but effective.
Mm.
She's basically like, stop being jealous.
Just stop it.
Just stop it.
Yeah, and focus on your own work.
Yeah, like shift your attention from what other people are doing
Yeah.
to what you're doing.
And appreciate what you have.
Right, like be grateful for your own journey.
Exactly. Because someone else's success doesn't diminish your own potential.
Yeah, so it's about like choosing where to focus your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then we have a few letters about navigating difficult life choices.
Yeah, like those big decisions that we all face.
Yeah, and one is from fear of asking too much.
Who's hesitating to pursue love because of fear.
Yeah, and Straight's like, don't let fear run your life.
Yeah, especially not in matters of the heart.
Right, like, take a chance.
Take a chance.
And then she offers this really helpful framework for making tough decisions in general.
Yeah.
Like, talk to people you trust,
Mm-hmm.
make lists.
Like pros and cons.
Yeah, consider your best self.
Like, what would your best self do?
Yeah, and what aligns with your values.
Exactly.
And then map out the potential consequences.
Yeah, think it through.
And ultimately move towards what feels like the light.
The light.
Yeah, like what feels good.
What feels aligned with your true self.
Okay, so then we have crowded.
Who's trying to figure out how to encourage their adult children to be more independent?
Yeah, like to move out.
Yeah.
And Strayed uses this really powerful personal anecdote here.
Yeah. She tells a story about her mom letting her go in the swimming pool.
Yeah, and it's this metaphor
Yeah.
for allowing your kids to find their own way.
To become independent.
Yeah, and she's saying that it can be hard for parents.
Yeah, because you want to protect them.
Right.
But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to, like, fling them into independence.
Yeah, to set those boundaries.
To trust them.
To trust them.
Yeah, and to let them figure it out.
Okay, so then we have truth that lives there.
Who's grappling with the decision to leave an unsatisfying marriage?
Yeah, and there's no like big dramatic reason.
No cheating.
No abuse.
Just like a feeling of dissatisfaction.
Yeah, and Strade's advice is so empowering.
Yeah, she's like, you don't need a reason.
You don't need a reason.
Like, wanting to leave is a legitimate reason.
Wow.
And she acknowledges those societal pressures, especially for women.
Yeah, like to stay.
To stay and make it work.
To prioritize other people's needs.
Exactly. But she's like, ultimately, you have to live in alignment with your own truth.
Yeah, and she emphasizes being kind in the process.
Yeah.
But she's like, if you're yearning for freedom,
Yeah.
if you want a different life,
That's a valid reason to go.
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 Okay, and then finally in this section, we have enough.
Yeah. This is the one about setting boundaries with a toxic family member.
Yeah, a harmful brother.
Yeah. And the parents are enabling it.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
It is. And Strade's response is so clear.
What does she say?
Cut ties with the brother,
Wow.
regardless of what the parents are doing.
So she's saying, like, prioritize your own well-being,
Yes.
even if it means distancing yourself from your family.
Exactly. And she acknowledges that it's going to be painful for the parents.
Yeah.
But she's like, you have to break free from that cycle.
From the cycle of toxicity.
Yeah, protect yourself.
Protect yourself. Okay, so our final section, part 4, is about finding meaning and hope.
Yeah, that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and we start with torn and distraught.
Who's facing this really difficult choice?
Yeah, between family obligations and personal calling.
Like head versus heart.
Yeah, and Strayed offers this interesting perspective on what makes experiences meaningful. She talks about the difference between anecdote and art.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically saying it's not just about the events of our lives.
No, it's about the consciousness we bring to them.
Yeah, like how we interpret them.
How we make meaning of them.
And the choices that we make within them.
Exactly. And that's really relevant for torn and distraught.
Yeah.
Because it's encouraging them to think about their values.
Yeah.
Like what's really important to them.
And to make choices that align with those values.
Exactly.
Even if it's hard.
Okay, so then a listener named Big Fan asks for a specific example of something that unfolded in Strade's life.
Yeah, like how this stuff actually plays out in real life.
Right, and she shares this really touching anecdote
Yeah.
about a yard sale and a little girl's dress.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
It's so sweet.
And it illustrates this concept of the ordinary miraculous.
Yeah, like how those small everyday moments
Yeah.
can actually be so meaningful.
Yeah, and we might not even realize it at the time.
Right. It's only later that we look back and
Yeah.
see the significance.
So it's like a reminder to pay attention
Yeah, to be present.
to the little things.
To those tiny, beautiful things.
Exactly. Okay, so then we have raging mom.
Who's struggling with anger.
Yeah, and how it's impacting her parenting.
Yeah. And straight is like, forgive yourself.
Forgive yourself.
Now she's like, you're human.
You're going to make mistakes.
You're going to make mistakes.
And holding on to that guilt and anger.
It's not helping anyone.
Yeah, it's just poisoning you.
Exactly.
And preventing you from being a better parent now.
So forgiveness is key.
Yeah, it's not about excusing the past.
No.
It's about moving forward.
And growing.
Yeah, okay. And then empty bowl is reflecting on loss and sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And strayed offers this really profound perspective.
Yeah, she's like, we thrive because of our losses and sorrows.
Not in spite of them.
Not in spite of them.
Because of them.
Yeah, it's like those experiences shape us.
They make us who we are.
And she talks about those empty bowls.
Yeah.
Like spaces left by what we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying they're not permanent voids.
Okay.
They're containers waiting to be filled.
Filled with what?
With new meaning, with resilience, with purpose.
So it's about like finding the good, even in the midst of the bad.
Exactly.
Okay, and then finally we end with this really powerful statement from strayed to heroin addict.
Yeah, this one's a gut punch.
It is.
She's talking about love and acceptance.
And she says,
You cannot compel someone to love you.
mic drop.
Right.
Right.
And she's saying, like, accept that.
Yeah.
Don't waste your energy trying to force it.
And acceptance isn't resignation. It's like this small, quiet room
Yeah.
where you can find peace.
Peace and self-acceptance.
So it's about like letting go of the need for external validation and
Right.
finding that validation within yourself.
Yeah. So
We've covered a lot of ground here.
we have,
Like from the complexities of love
yeah,
to the realities
and
of
the
grief.
importance of boundaries
Yeah.
to the journey of self-discovery,
And ultimately finding meaning and hope.
even in the midst of difficulty.
Exactly. And as you listen to all of this, think about which of these tiny, beautiful things
Mm-hmm.
really resonates with you.
Yeah, like what speaks to your heart.
What speaks to your heart? What feels relevant to your life right now?
Yeah.
Maybe it's that directness about unrequited love,
Yeah.
or the compassionate understanding of grief,
Mhm.
or the encouragement to set firm boundaries.
Exactly. And think about those empty bowls
Yeah.
in your own life.
What do they represent?
What are you grieving?
What are you yearning for?
And how can you start to fill those bowls,
Yeah.
not by erasing the past,
Right.
but by embracing the present
Yeah.
and moving towards your own light?
Towards your own fulfillment.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.